The House will please come to order. Thank you very much, House, for your patience. Our Joint Conference Committee has concluded their work. Chief Clerk has emailed you the Joint Conference Committee report. It's also posted on the internet for those out in the rest of the world. Welcome back to our members online. Everybody, thank you very much. So we're at that order of business with consideration of Joint Conference Committee reports. The first and only report for our consideration is Joint Conference Committee number 1 on House Bill 1001, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. 1002, my apologies, it's Joint Conference number 1, House Bill 1002, Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to move Joint Conference Committee Report number 1 to House Bill 1002 and ask for your favorable consideration. And so, Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do is run through the bill in general on what we did and how we accepted, or they, which ones were our positions, which one were their positions, and then I'm going to go back through and tell you kind of what all that means. And so basically section 1, which is the findings and the resolution, I believe. So section 1, we took all of the Senate's amendments. So section 1, the findings, we took all of the Senate's amendments. And then on section 2, on page 7 of the bill, we took the House position on the definition of public entity. So we took the House definition of the position on public entity. And then, of course, B remains the same because it wasn't changed by either body. And then on subsection C, we take the House position on C. And so obviously the Senate position would go away. And then on D, we take the House position. And the Senate position goes away. So basically, on page 7, it all remained, we retain the House position on page 7 and page 8 through lines 1 through 5. And then we had a subsection E and they had a subsection E, and both of those positions would go away. So we would recede from our E and they would recede from their E. And then on 3, and this is where I've got to get the language out. So on 3, we took the Senate's position by going into a subsection B and then further amending. And so then in Romanet 1, the only thing that changes from the Senate position is we get rid of the word egregious. So under the United States involving, instead of egregious federal overreach, we just have involving federal overreach. And then in Romanet 2, we replace the language that you see there with the following language. And that would be, so Romanet 2 would read like this: joining a lawsuit initiated by Wyoming residents who were personally injured, whose livelihood is negatively affected by federal vaccine mandates pursuant to existing law, which is 916603A4. And so thank you to the good representative from over there in that Glen Rock country. And so I'm going to read you what that is, and let's see which. Let me get to that. 603. Is it right? Let me see. Am I missing it? Yeah, right here. Okay, so what 91603 is the duties of the AG. So all we're doing is we're saying joining a lawsuit initiated by the Wyoming residents who were personally injured pursuant to existing law 91603A Romanet 4, and Romanet 4 is represent the state in suits, actions, or claims in which the state is interested in either the Supreme Court or any United States court. So it's existing law that gives the AG pretty broad authority to enter into lawsuits. And that's kind of what we did. And then I'm just going to walk you back through kind of some talking points on it. So once again, Senate position pages 1 through 6, findings stay the same, Senate's position. And then in the House, what it does is excludes from the definition of public entity and an entity receiving federal funding that by complying with subsection B of this section would lose that federal funding. So, the public hospital example. So you wouldn't lose funding to the hospital. And then subsection B provides no public entity shall enforce any mandate or standard of the federal government, emergency or temporary or permanent, that requires an employer to ensure a mandate that an employee receives a COVID-19 vaccine. And then C provides, to the extent that this subsection B conflicts with the federal law, regulation, rule, standard, subsection B won't be enforced after the federal mandate takes effect. And then D, however, if the federal mandate which conflicts with subsection B is stayed by a federal court or is repealed or withdrawn or is otherwise not in legal force and effect, then subsection B is again enforced. And then obviously on section 3, you can see the changes. And I'll go through it just so you can remember what the Senate did. It provides that the AG shall, at the discretion of the governor, take an appropriate action necessary to challenge and resist federal government action related to COVID-19 vaccination mandates, including Romanet I, initiating an action in the name of the state of Wyoming as the party aggrieved by a violation of the 10th Amendment or other protections reserved to the states under the United States Constitution, involving federal overreach, because we got rid of the word egregious, into rights reserved to the states and asserting standing on additional grounds, including that the state accepts federal funding and federal contracts and is therefore injured by federal threats and coercion to withhold federal funding, which constitute an unconstitutionally coercive exercise of federal spending power. And then Romanet 2, joining a lawsuit initiated by Wyoming residents who were personally injured or whose livelihood is negatively affected by federal vaccine mandates pursuant to 91603A4. So, Mr. Speaker, that's kind of it. And I would be glad to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor. Any discussion on the Joint Conference Committee report? Any discussion? Any discussion? Is anybody in the chamber? Any discussion on the Joint Conference Committee? Seeing none. Members, we are voting on Joint Conference Committee number 1, report to House Bill 1002. A majority of the elected members is required to adopt the report. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Andrew. Baker. Banks.
No.
Bear. Blackburn. Brown. Burkhart. Burt. Clausen. Connolly. Crago. Duncan.
Aye.
Eklund. Air.
Aye.
Flitner.
Aye.
Fortner. Fortner.
Aye.
Gray. Greer. Hallinan. Haroldson. Harshman excused. Heiner. Henderson. Jennings. Kinner. Excused. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson Dan.
Aye.
LeBeau. McGuire.
No.
Nyman. Newsom excused. Nicholas. Oakley.
Aye.
Obermuller.
No.
O'Hearn.
Aye.
Olson. Ottman. Paxton. Provenza. Rodriguez Williams. Romero Martinez, Roscoe,
No.
Schwartz, Sherwood, Simpson,
Aye.
Summers, Stith, Stivar, Sweeney, Walters, Washit, Western,
Aye.
Wharf, Williams, Wilson, Winter, Yin, Zawanitzer. Mr. Speaker. Closing vote. Are there any changes? Henderson? Aye to no. Burkhart? No to aye. Further changes? Online? Further changes? Closing vote. The vote is closed. 40 aye, 17 no, 3 excused.
By your vote, you have voted to adopt Joint Conference Committee Number 1 report on House Bill 1002. So members, now, as you know, our report goes down to the Senate as a message. The Senate will take action on the Joint Conference Committee because it was a House bill. It starts here, goes to the Senate. They will take action. They will send a report back to us. So the House will stand in recess until 7 p.m. November 3rd.